Before Baldur's Gate 3, before the original Sin franchise, before the various games Larian had to make to keep themselves afloat, otherwise they would have unfortunately gone bankrupt, before the new Divinity trailer made you excited, freaked out, and horny all at the same time,
Yes!
Larian Studios would create their very first RPG game with Divine Divinity, a project that had gone through so many changes and iterations due to an unfortunate mess of publishing deals. It was a wonder that Larian managed to pull it off. While not as mega popular and feature-rich as some of the other RPGs at the time, looking at you, past BioWare, you beautiful bastards, emphasis on the past of course, the very first brainchild of Sven did become a special game for old-timey RPG fans whose brains were cognizant enough to enjoy it while having a functioning desktop back in the early 2000s. An open sandbox style RPG slash real-time pause RPG slash also an ARPG, not gonna lie, where you get to adventure in a small portion of Rivellon to embrace your divine destiny. Though arguably I spent most of my time just murdering a bunch of enemies to min-max my character. Glad to see some Larian designs never change. So while they've managed to hit their stride in the past couple of years, thanks to their commitment to developing, iterating, and fine-tuning their amazing CRPG games, what's it like to experience the 1.0 version of the Divinity franchise?
No, you fool! Your life is too precious to risk.
The story of Divine Divinity is pretty basic as far as the prophesized hero that will save the world structure is concerned. It begins when you hit the View Intro button.
Huh?
So this entire intro has no real explanation whatsoever, and I had to consult Google Sensei for the correct answers, specifically the Larian forums for explaining it. The year is 2020 not, and an angel that descended from the heavens is captured by an evil group known as the Black Ring. Before they can cut down her naked 16 or I think it's 32-bit CGI body and take the prophesized divine power for themselves, she splits into 3 forms and escapes. Meanwhile, in the Forest of Shrek, your Conan the Barbarian ass is trying to fend off a band of orcs from stealing the only coins left in your tiny loincloth. And they pretty much almost have you, but not before one of those split angels takes over your body, and you have now become the main protagonist.
I am strong, as a man should be.
Also, a totally not coincidental cat manages to bring you to the village of Alaroth, where the game actually begins. The first town puts you in the backdrop of having to go through the motions of saving it. Specifically, a very old man who is going mad from the evil curse that lies underneath Alaroth.
You! Thelion Hashnitar, the Lord of Decay! Be gone!
Once you find the cure for Merdanius' madness, that's a mouthful, you are finally able to set off where your ties to the actual story. An ancient wizard known as Zandalor informs you, after using your plot armor multiple times to protect your booty, that the Marked Ones, the ones the Split Angel inhabited, are destined to become divine, a powerful being who is capable of bringing peace to Rivellon, specifically to protect the world from the demons and their Lord of Chaos.
Black Ring immersion.
But in order to do so, the Marked Ones must first restore the Council of Seven, chosen individuals of the 7 races, wizards included due to logistical reasons that for some reason carried over to original Sin as well, in order to ascend to Divinity and fight the ancient evil. Spoilers ahead, but I think most of you can already tell how this goes. You become divine and beat the Lord of Chaos in his bunghole.
Bye, have a beautiful time!
I'd say pretty atypical as far as fantasy stories go, and not quite the most original. It's hard not to compare previously done stories like the 7 Sages from Ocarina of Time, or the evil underneath a town like Diablo for Tristram. Some of the characters are alright, like Zandalor being an old grumpy sassy wizard, or Lord Janus being a child asshole, or I guess just a child.
My dear Trevor, I must intervene before you render me catatonic.
But other than that, not much to go around for the main cast. Although I did find it funny how your character can sometimes be really sassy with how they go about the world. Never have I had my own hero complain to me about mana usage.
I can't perform any more of this blasted magic. Let me rest a while.
So, for Divine Divinity's primary story, speaking honestly, I wasn't that interested because there just wasn't anything too memorable to be invested in. But what I can say is how Larian managed to make its world building way more fun by populating it with encounters and side quests. I feel like this is sometimes a common design of open world RPG games where it's the rest of the world that is more fun to explore. The wide variety of individuals you meet from different parts of Rivellon, learning about each race and their interactions, fun story side quests that you come across which leads to something more, even the undead manage to have better humor than most of the living NPCs.
I mean, if you think about it, we don't have no muscles or flesh on our bones either, so what keeps us together, sort of thing, huh?
Best not to think about it. I don't want to fall to bits because of excess existential thought. Nasty.
And if we're talking about Larian's carryover design, something that I mentioned in a previous video regarding Divine Divinity, I think it's amazing to see that this has been something that has iterated very well in their modern CRPGs, where the worlds are so densely packed with encounters for players to explore, and the emergent outcomes that stem from them. It's cool to see that this is where the design first started. Quite old, obviously, and not as dense as the modern games of Larian, but I actually chalk up most of my enjoyed experience in this game to just going around the map and revealing every nook and cranny to see what each section has to offer. That, and I just have a crippling OCD to always reveal the entire map before playing the rest of the game. Thank you, Breath of the Wild. I think the one interesting retrospective reveal is that you are in fact playing Lucian himself, someone who is an unimportant character in the other Divinity games. But I don't even consider this to be a spoiler, nor is it really essential to the story, other than maybe letting you know how he ended up becoming divine. But again, it's not really that noteworthy per se on the personal adventuring, and nothing that really ties to its subsequent stories. So a pretty run-of-the-mill fantasy plot that provides the reasoning behind your adventure, but it's the world building that still feels like the more fun part of Rivellon. Old, yes, and very much 1.0, but it's great to see just how the story design first started. On the RPG sim side of things, Divine Divinity provides you with all the essentials you need to get your basic roleplay going. You get to pick your starting class, who specialize in not only specific stats, but also specialize in some overtly stereotypical personalities that are a little bit too cringe.
I am strong, as a man should be. The strength of my body and my skill with weapons are all I will need to defeat the many foes I will doubtless meet in my life.
They say there are only two ways of living for a poor girl on the streets: prostitution or starvation.
They call me a witch because I'm a woman, and an enchantress because I'm pretty. Damn them! I deserve as much respect as any male wizard.
I'm a bad boy, bad boy, bad boy, bad boy, bad boy.
Also, what the f is that wizard sound effect? It makes my ears bleed every time I hear it.
A strong mind and a grasp of magic are all a man really needs to fight evil.
The basic role-playing lets you outfit your character with various equipment that you find to help their offensive and defensive capabilities, have choice-driven dialogue with various NPCs, free-form questing with how you go about your adventure, gaining experience and spending them on talent skills and stats, bartering, and inventory management that you'll need a microscope to properly see where all your crap is. Guys, I swear I'm only this messy 100% of the time. You can even slot charms to your weapons like you do in Diablo and Final Fantasy VII, which I think were the first major games to start that trend, ? Also the need to identify weapons on occasion. So pretty much all of the basic RPG mechanics to get the Divinity roleplay going, though virtually a standard in the majority of RPGs. My favorite design element that Larian first implemented in Divine Divinity, which eventually became a standard for the original Sin franchise, is how there's no limitation to the skills and stats that you choose when you level up. It's a system that I love because you don't have to confine yourself to the skills of specific quote-unquote classes that you pick and can freely shape your character how you want. Except for the special moves, because those are actually class exclusives. Sure, I decided to heavily invest in the Unga Bunga build because I'm lazy and I wanted to Minecraft whack enemies into EXP. But you could easily mix and match to make more unique builds, and I'm sure some of you veteran min-maxers might have something to say. If you're watching this video, that is. But open-endedness is something that I've always found unique about Larian's RPG choice, even with Divine Divinity being old as shit. Might just also be my min-max brain talking from Original Sin 2. On the combat, the Hack N Slash ARPG with pause is a very familiar feeling since I've played a lot of older Diablo games, plus Path of Exile. Basically click things so that they die, and occasionally use a spell or two to make them die faster or make you die less, whichever one you need to prioritize. You can hotbar spells, which I still don't understand why they have to use the F-row key for older RPG games. Can a historian please explain this to me? And along with the pause button to make combat not feel as frantic, it's essentially an ARPG experience, well, with pause. See traditional Baldur's Gate or Dragon Age for gameplay examples. A very easy to grasp combat system that feels simplistically fun, but also a weird hybrid ground between trying to be an action RPG like Diablo, while also trying to have some tactics like Baldur's Gate. I wouldn't exactly call it unique since it's kind of trying to blend different genres, but I'd still say it's a fun experience for what it's trying to go for, plus the various skills that you can branch into for different killing potential. I dig your attacks being automatic, so I don't have to click constantly, and saves me the trouble of early onset arthritis. Also, the pause button just helps with all of the clutter that sometimes gets on screen. Lastly, the exploration system was fun when it came to revealing the encounters and side quests, but getting around can be a big chore at first. If I only had to rely on walking, I would have seriously dropped this game. But what at least helped was the teleportation pyramids, and yes, these are the exact pyramids that you find in the original Sin games, as well as the teleportation gates around the map. Thankfully, they made getting around less fatiguing than having to go around on foot. Only thing that kinda sucks is that you have to find the specific scrolls to activate them. But if you're keen on exploring, you will eventually find them all. And if you have no patience, I wouldn't blame you if you just looked them up. The other thing that I took notice of was the ability to move objects in the background. Again, another design element that Larian has managed to maintain and iterate in their recent games, and it's quite clever how they first implemented it as a means to reveal hidden items and access points, sort of like their version of puzzles. But I did think that its 1.0 system wasn't as fully utilized to be more prominent. I only ever recall having to move objects in space once for a puzzle, and nothing of similar note ever happened again, which was a bit disappointing. My only major gripe was accessibility. While I love the lack of hand-holding Larian's games have always implemented in order to let the player learn on their own, the lack of a tutorial really hurts this game a lot. If you know nothing about RPG systems and the way they are commonly controlled, it's easy to get lost in this game without knowing how anything works. Thankfully, my familiarity with ARPG and CRPGs got me through. But at certain points, I was still trying to figure out how things like combining and slotting worked, because the game just really never tells you. Google Sensei was again my best solution. Funny enough, during the editing of this video, I did realize there is an actual manual. Too bad I'm too much of a modern gamer to read. Oh, but it's cute that there is a thank you message from Sven on behalf of Larian. Other minor gripes include the stamina system, which is a bit weird due to the fact that running always constantly drains it. And as a warrior with a spin to win move that uses stamina, well, I'm just glad that getting money in this game is really easy, and I basically bought Rivellon's entire supply of stamina potions. At times, I do think the game could do without the system, but I stopped thinking about it when my veins ran pure yellow.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Another gripe was enemy difficulty. While I'm not completely put off by locations where enemies outlevel you, thus requiring you to explore level-appropriate areas, sometimes the enemy elites just feel too overpowering, at least for the melee class. At range, kiting seems okay, I think. I'll get him eventually. But when my natural health couldn't sustain my melee character, Karlach's bravery, chugging potions became my favorite pastime. A swig of shadow to go into stealth, a spin to win move that doesn't break it, and refillable stamina that lasts forever, not even the final bosses could do a damn thing. An old yet interestingly weird hybrid combat and RPG that still managed to be a bit fun for me. But I wouldn't exactly say it's a must-try experience because unless you're okay with some dated design and lack of modern-day quality of life mechanics, is something only a specific subset of fans and retro enthusiasts would enjoy. And I highly doubt that the players who love the turn-based format of their recent games would enjoy this one at all.
No, Mardanius, no! I am Lanilor!
Well, Divine Divinity is an old-ass game with some old-ass graphics, but oddly enough, despite its datedly flat isometric design, there's something nostalgic about it when it comes to its end-of-the-era graphics that games like Diablo 2 were known for. But from an industry standpoint, 2002 was also a year of some seriously amazing graphical games, like Metroid Prime, Kingdom Hearts, or Morrowind. So Divine's visual design doesn't quite win Best in Show, but I am comparing a small design team to giants like Nintendo. On the other hand, it is hard to want to like Divine's graphical nature in its entirety, and not really something that has aged well. Though some artistic choices, like the human-shaped head for a door, is the stuff of nightmares. Imagine the smell, ugh! It also doesn't help that the UI scale for modern resolutions is a bit too zoomed out, and you need a magnifying glass if you want to read the in-game text. On the vocal side, well, like I said, it was a small team, and this is their first major game, but the voiceovers aren't the most ideal. They're fun to hear with their characters that they're trying to portray, but sometimes it's just really tough to take them seriously for the story.
We're in trouble, Marked One. A strong enchantment lies over this place and blocks my magic. It's pointless to try to cast spells in here.
Then we have to fall back. Perhaps we can reach the sewers in time.
Too late. You can't escape. Kill the Marked One.
Some of the funnier bits I do quite like a lot.
Since when does a brave orc shaman run from mere imps, huh? I was simply covering your back.
Oh, brave orc shaman, smell of piss after fight.
But the one aspect that I love in the game's presentation is the music, whose tracks are produced by the late Kirill Prokofsky, and if I pronounce that wrong, I'm gomena sorry. There's a certain fantasy, mystery-like folktale mood that Kirill portrays in Divine Divinity, and Original Sin 1 as well. The songs aren't as orchestra heavy as how Borislav Slavov does it in Original Sin 2 and Baldur's Gate 3, which tend to feel more epic and emotional. But the ethereal, almost calm nature of Kirill's scores feels uniquely his, one that uplifts Divine Divinity's fantasy setting. Not the most visually striking game, especially with today's eyes, but Kirill's music is the best aspect that made me enjoy it more.
Flicks of flocks and cat buttocks! Imps was afraid dragon would say that!
For Larian's first attempt at an RPG, it's not that bad for its time, considering all of their initial creative elements to make the game that they wanted, while also trying to satisfy their publishing deal and making it relevant for the gaming market at the time. I think had I played Divine Divinity back in 2002, and had I been a cognizant adult, rather than a head-empty child who breathed through his mouth, I would have welcomed it wholeheartedly. But considering classic BioWare and Bethesda were the RPG giants at the time, it's easy to see how Divine Divinity was overshadowed. Is it worth playing today? I would say it depends on how you want to view this game. I was able to enjoy it on account of some older RPG game designs that I'm familiar with and still love. But I enjoyed it more in seeing Larian's design elements retrospectively. If you're coming in expecting something outstanding like their recent titles, you'll be kinda disappointed. A lot of quality of life elements aren't as well implemented and actually hold back some of the more prominent designs that the game offers. But what I will say is how impressive the groundwork was laid by Larian to ultimately build their future games and actually commit to improving them. Maybe after their third-party publishing story arc, when Larian would finally self-publish and eventually make Original Sin 1, letting their intended designs be fully realized after so many years. Seeing those explorative elements, open-ended map structure, and emergent story questing in their recent games, it's great to see Larian spreading their wings to make an RPG that they and other fans would enjoy. Some people attribute Original Sin 1 as the foundation for their efforts in Original Sin 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. But it's honestly because of Divine Divinity that any of those games would exist at all, especially the upcoming Divinity game. But that's gonna do it for today, guys. Thanks for sticking around. There will be more games to play and more videos coming soon, so please stay tuned if you'd like to see more. But for now, I'll see you all next time.